Alright, we're back with some air. Let's see if we can show you guys how the carburetor works. I'm an auto mechanic, but the principles are the same on a little two-stroke carburetor. First of all, has to have some kind of a pulse because we don't have a mechanical fuel pump. So this has this little hole here, which is joined. It's called a pulse signal or pulse line on some other engines, and it gets a pressure and a vacuum from the piston in the cylinder. As it goes up and down, it creates a push-pull, push-pull, push-pull on this little hole. So it goes little push-pull. And as you follow, if you can follow this through, you have to follow them. It goes to this little hole here. So that is connected to this hole here on the bottom of the carburetor. And then there's this little diaphragm, which is actually your fuel pump. So it's a little vacuum type fuel pump. Hopefully I don't mess you up here. I can watch this. Okay, we'll line. Here we go. Let's get it backwards here. There we go. Proper way around. So it has these two little flappers that cover the holes there. That covers that hole. That flapper covers that hole. Now, as you have a pressure and a low pressure, it pushes this down and lets it up, pushes down and lets it up. So when it pushes down, it has two other holes coming from this cavity here. One goes to that hole and the other goes to that hole. So when you push it down, it will push this flapper off of the hole, and it'll push this flapper against the hole. So it closes this one, opens this one. When it goes the other way direction, it'll open this one, close this one. So in effect, it opens and closes each of these little flapper valves. So now, this is your fuel line from your gas tank. So when you have a low pressure area, a low pressure area on this side, it creates a low pressure. It lifts this off, allows the fuel to come out of that little hole into this little hole, into this cavity. Okay, now as it pushes this way, that one closes so the fuel can't go back up the tube. This one opens and allows fuel to come through that hole, into this cavity, through this little through this little hole right here, and into this little well here. And this little well here is the fuel filter, and at the other end of that well, it's the other end of the carburetor, comes right up through here, and it's your needle and seat, and that's what regulates how much fuel goes into the carburetor or the carburetor bowl. So that's your fuel pump circuit. Very simple. Now you have your needle and seat. Where's your little needle? Here's the little needle, which goes in that small tiny little hole with your little fulcrum here, which regulates the amount of fuel that comes in here. And you have another diaphragm on the top here, and as the little fuel pump on the bottom pumps the fuel up this hole, pushes that little needle off the seat. As it fills up this cavity, it pushes the needle up, and as the needle goes up, it closes, it hits the diaphragm on the top, fills up this area, and forces the needle to close. And that is considered your float bowl. On a carburetor, you have to have a fuel delivery system, a float system that regulates the amount of fuel in the carburetor. You have your idle circuits, your off idle circuits, which is low speed and medium speed. And then you go into your main metering, which is your higher speed or cruise and full throttle positions. So for your idle, it's going to close with your throttle plates closed, and the air going past your throttle plates are where your throttle screw is set, which opens the throttle possibly just a little bit or even maybe closed. You notice there's a very, very small hole which will pass air through, and there's also a small hole on the side of the throttle plate which will pass airflow. And you'll notice right at that little slot on the side of the throttle plate, there's a hole there. So with the air passing through that hole, it'll cause a low pressure area over that hole, which will draw the fuel and air mixture into the carburetor and into the engine. Now as the throttle plate opens, there's also another little hole. I don't think you can see it, but it's just past the throttle plate. So as the throttle plate goes past it, it creates a vacuum on, or low pressure on this side of the throttle plate, and draws fuel through that hole also. So it gives it, as it gives it more air, it gives it more fuel. As the throttle plate opens farther and farther, it starts to let more air pass past the throttle plate, and you probably can't see it, but there's a restriction in the bore, a smaller area. When you have a smaller area, it causes a low pressure area, and that low pressure area, I'll turn this over, that low pressure area has a tube that's inserted right into that low pressure area, which is the high speed fuel discharge tube. And that tube, as the air passes through it, creates another low pressure area and draws the fuel out that tube into the main stream of the airflow, which is your high speed circuit. Now on this side of the carburetor, this will be your high speed main jet, and this little brass little wee tiny hole will be your idle fuel jet. So that regulates how much fuel is allowed into the carburetor at idle and at full throttle. And that's about it for the carburetor. You have your high speed screw and your low speed screw for your adjustments from outside the carburetor, so you can adjust how much fuel and air mixture you have in your carburetor for your high speed and how much fuel air mixture you have for your low speed. And that is a carburetor. Now we're going to go ahead and blow this carburetor out, blow all the orifices out, make sure that everything's clean, and then we're going to go ahead and put the gaskets in. Okay, so I will blow it out. I've set my pressure regulator to about 60 pounds so I don't blow these little plugs out of here. Sometimes if you use 100 pounds pressure, you can blow these out and then you have more problems. If there's a problem with dirt in the carburetor, sometimes you have to take these out anyhow, but I don't think that's the problem in this case, so we're just going to leave them in there and use a lower pressure. Okay, we'll start by blowing through the fuel delivery line. Feel that the air is coming out of there really nicely. Blow through this other next fuel delivery into the cavity. It's going good there. Blow back through the pulse line, make sure that's opened. Blow into the first discharge from the cavity. Make sure that's good. Yes, it is. Into the next one, back into the fuel well. That is good. Okay, now up to the fuel well. Make sure that air is coming out the other side, where the needle and seat, or where the needle controls the amount of fuel, closes that off. That's working good. All right. So we know the fuel part is clean. There's a low speed circuit, and that should come out these holes here. Here we go. You can feel the air pressure coming out there, so we know they're coming through. And if you were to put your tongue over this little guy here, you would be able to feel a little bit of air blowing out there. Here's the main high speed. Coming out this main jet, that's good. Coming out here, that's good. And definitely coming out there, so that's good too. So we're all good. Everything's free. Actually, you know, I'm going to pull this little jet out of here and just give it another little blast just to make sure. It's easy to take things out while we're here. Whoop it out of there. Okay, let's just give it a blast down there. All right. take a look at this little jet, make sure you can see through it. It's very tiny. Alright, oh yeah, I can see light through it, so it's good. We blew through it anyhow, so we know that the air goes through it. Let's put this back in there. Screw her back in. Always be gentle starting, that you don't cross thread anything. And just back off and turn it again if it starts to get some tension. Okay, tighten it up nicely. Okay. Alright. So there you have it. That's how a carburetor works. Pretty simple, huh? They're all the same. Big V12 with a carburetor on it, or dual carburetor on it, or triple carburetor. The principles are exactly the same on them all. So there you have it. You're a carburetor expert now. Alright. Let's start putting it together. Here's the diaphragm. New diaphragm. If I can get a hold of it here. There we go. New gasket. Put the gasket on right way around. Doesn't fit the wrong way around on this one, so we don't have to worry about it being wrong. Same with this. Can't put it on wrong. Slide the gasket on there. Diaphragm on there. There we go. Set the carburetor on top. Line everything up here again. Open up the throttle so that's not in the way. There we go. There. It's on there. Screw. What did I do with the screw? I threw it down. Find it here. Oh yeah. All kinds of junk. Oh yeah, here it is. Right here. Screw in there. Tighten her up. There we go. Alright, now we can start on the needle and seat. So, take the new needle, drop it in the hole. There we go. New spring. Drop that in the little hole that's there for the spring. Get the new pin, new fulcrum, slide the pin in the fulcrum. Now this little hook on the end here has to hook under the needle. So we'll be trying, whoopsie. Let's see if I can do this. Under the needle. Yep, lost it. Dexterity is important here. There we go. Push the pin back underneath the rod there. And tighten that one up. We'll just snug it up and then we'll check. Okay, we got the pin under there, springs under there, needle is opening properly. There we go, looks good. Okay, let's tighten it up the rest of the way. Okay, all we got left is the diaphragm on the top. Sometimes if you forget which way things go, you can always look at the old stuff. See, there's the gasket on this side of the diaphragm, and this is open. How does this go on? Well, you can look for marks on it. See, there's two little round marks there that were pushed in from being compressed. A little round circle there. How does that line up? Oh, there's a round circle there, So it goes that way around, so we know that that's the way the old one went. So let's do the same with the new one. So I know the gasket goes on. Always look to make sure all the holes line up everywhere. Diaphragm goes on this way around. Top goes on. Which way does it go? Holes have to line up. Very simple. Screws. Make sure everything lines up. Don't want to poke an extra hole in anything. Turn them gently to get them started. Make sure they're lined. There we go. One. Two. Didn't run through any gaskets. I did nice and easy. Three. And that, oh, I forgot to put the new filter in. I'll have to take the bottom back off. 4. That's the nice thing about having all your parts in a pan. You know when you didn't do something because there'll be parts left over. We'll just tighten everything up now. We got them all snug. Okay, I'll take this bottom back off again and put the filter in there. Sounds like there's a puppy not happy around here somewhere. Okay, here we go. Okay, the filter. How could we forget the filter? Okay, slide them in there. We had trouble getting the other one out, so probably have trouble getting the new one in. Get it in straight there if we can. Oh, looks pretty good there now. All right. Let's put the bottom back on again. Fits in there good. Gasket again. Open the throttle up a bit, get it in there. There we go. Done. Done like dinner. Idle jet spout, or the idle mixture screws back in here. Always be careful not to cross thread. It's easy to do. Okay, let's set these at, say, let's try about an inch and or turn the quarters. There's bottom. Don't crank them in too hard. You'll end up wrecking something. So we'll go half a hole and a half. Let's set her there. This one here. do the same. Okay, out a half, out a whole, out a half. And there you have it. One rebuilt little wee carburetor. Here are the numbers for the carburetor. If you ever have to order a carburetor kit, you just give your dealer those numbers. This one's a S63A144A. So if you need to order a carburetor, there you go. And it's a STIHL carburetor, made in China. Okay, let's put it back on the saw. I'll just back the camera up and we'll do that. Hang on for the shake. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Slide that carburetor back on there. Make sure you do it the right way around. Slip her on the belt. Gasket's still on the carburetor here, or on the engine, so we're not going to worry about that. It's good. Next gasket. We'll put it on the same way it was. You can see that it's got indentation on that side, so we'll put it on flat side against the flat side. Actually, it was the other way around, wasn't it? There's the indentations. There we go. There's the metal plate. Top up again. And housing. Nuts back on the screws here. There we go. Snug them up. Go. Slide the fuel lines back on and the throttle cable back in. Here's the throttle cable, just very easy on this one. Which way around does it go here? There's a big hole, there's a little hole. Let's put it in that way then. There we go, that's on. Fuel lines, slide on the back here. Just rubber lines, just push them on there. There you have it. Done. So I took the liberty of changing the fuel on this since our last video. This was the fuel that was in it. I'm going to start it with this fresh fuel, fresh oil. And then I'm going to put this fuel and oil that's been sitting in it for a year or so, or since last summer anyhow. And we'll see what happens. Okay, we will try and fire it up now. See if we can make her go. Choke on. Ignition on. Primer. There we go. That's sucking through that fuel pump on the bottom. Okay, let's try it. Running better already. Look at that, eh? This screw down here is for your idle speed. Let's try slowing it down just a little bit here. It's actually not turning on the other side, so it's probably okay. Let's slow her down a little bit. Pretty clear when it's full throttle. It's starting to plug up there. Get it all running clean. I think we fixed it. Alright, let's go back and put some of the other fuel in it and see what it runs like with that bad fuel in it now. I'll just get something to dump this in here. Actually, I'll turn it off and I'll go find a jug.